Good morning, everybody. How are we doing? Welcome to the Michigan Maker Summit. This has been a vision of mine for a long time. I just want to say thank you, everybody, for being here to start off with. If you don't know about me, I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself and how we kind of got started, so you just kind of understand where we're coming from, because I was right where you guys are, a very short period of time ago. So my name is Blake Sanborn. My wife is Molly Sanborn, and we're the owners of Outnumbered 521 and Great Lakes Laser Supply. Our very first company was Outnumbered 521. That's where we were out there doing craft shows and things like that. Molly wanted a laser to be able to make earrings and ornaments, and that's just where things got started. I had a different vision. We got to the craft shows, and there was nothing there for guys. It was always just these women dragging their husbands around. They didn't want to be there, and I just thought that there was an opportunity for a different product line. So we kind of pivoted, and we pivoted to carrying a lot of guy stuff. Molly always yells at me because she uses the same stuff. She uses the wallets that we sell and the belts and things like that. But so we pivoted to that guy stuff, and we went from doing pretty well at craft shows to then hitting thousands of dollars at craft shows. And we had a lot of different techniques that we put into play there, that definitely helped us in that process. Then I saw an opportunity for another pivot. My passion is really helping people like you guys, and that's when we created Great Lakes Laser Supply. And we were able to kind of sell those same products that we had success with and teach you guys the same tactics that we found success with, which was the guy stuff. We've definitely expanded beyond that now to having a lot of other things, but that's kind of where we're at. And now the vision is a long-term part of the summit is a part of that, because I want to teach you guys, how to have the same success that we did, whether that's at craft shows or having, a focus on a specific product line that you can have that same success with using the same things, which was a lot of times the good, better, best strategy. But, one thing I'm reminded of, kind of putting myself in your shoes, I had a rotary that I ordered, and I'm like, man, I want to do tumblers. And that rotary just sat there for a long time. I was just intimidated to get that thing set up and figure out, how to get that rotary to work. I tried several times. It was very frustrating, and I had nobody to reach out to for help. I was kind of just on my own watching YouTube videos, which are great, but I was never connected with anybody. I felt like I was alone. And Molly, she's like, I put a system in place for her to make earrings and things like that, and she would do great. But something like learning that new rotary was very challenging for her and myself. I'm telling you this because, that is why we created the summit. I want to give you guys kind of a shortcut so that you have that community, that connection, the resources to be able to skip past that frustrating point. Are any of you guys in that frustrating point right now with any piece of equipment? I'm there, and I want you to know, just because some of us are here, we're the same as you. We have the same struggles. I still see in some Facebook groups some cool thing that somebody's making, and I still think, I kind of want to. I'm going to make one of those. I order something. You got to stay focused sometimes to improve. Let's see. So as we grew, we started attending conferences like this, and we had those people that we would meet. Will is one of the first people I met at LBX a couple of years ago, and we just started planting those seeds, growing those connections. Then you have somebody that you can call and reach out to in those situations. The Michigan Maker Summit is a direct result of those connections. This could not have happened without those relationships and connections. I'm going to tell you guys a secret. I started planning the Michigan Maker Summit on Labor Day. I don't know if you guys saw the vendor room, but it's packed. The people that are here, it's just unreal. The people that came together to make this happen, it's unreal. I mean, the speakers, the breakout leaders, the vendors, Will and Mark are here from out of state. There's so many people that flew here just to be here, to be a part of it. I was still getting phone calls last weekend for vendors that wanted to be a part of this. It just blows my mind. I feel so blessed. We've got X Tools giving away a laser. Like I'm just a guy here in West Michigan. And when I said, hey, do you guys want to be part of this? Is there anything you guys want to do to contribute? They were wanting to get involved, and they're giving away a laser. Lens Digital is giving away a rotary. Like, the things that came together are just so incredible. Another part of that community and what the summit is all about is all of us growing in business together. So, like, we got these lanyards. Jim, he's local. He's a connection. I was literally watching a YouTube video, and we connected on YouTube, and Jim is local. He just lives 45 minutes north of here. These are the blanks that I sell with Great Lakes Laser Supply. Jim did the UV printing, and I had him throw his name and logo on the back. So he can be added to your foundation of your businesses. If you guys need something UV printed, when somebody asks, you guys can connect, reach out to Jim, and that can just help to grow your foundation. So today we're going to focus on 3 things. Design your blueprint, build your foundation, find your people. The blueprint is the plan, a strategy, and your unique path to success. The foundation is your skills and courage. The people are your support system. So we're going to get into designing your blueprint a little bit. It's a little more in depth. Initially, I think designing your blueprint is finding your niche, but it's definitely, it's more than that. I think a lot of people say find a niche, focus on a niche, but it's really a little bit more in depth. So a big part of designing your blueprint is finding that niche. So many people do it backwards. You see that cool thing on Facebook, and then you try to make it. Well, where in the world are you going to sell that thing? I don't know. Where am I going to sell door hangers? They're fun to make. I like to make map signs, but how do you market something like that? So I recommend people taking a step back, and I teach people to find their natural sales market. What is your natural sales market? It's an environment that you're already in. It can be a ton of different things. And then after you find that, then you're going to dig into figuring out what you're going to sell those people, because it's much easier that way when you have a place to sell that item. So I'm going to get into a couple of specifics, because I like to talk to people through these conversations. So if anybody ever wants to talk through finding what that niche is, don't hesitate to reach out or post in the Facebook group. We can talk through it and figure out what that is. Has anybody ever done any sewing or know people who sew or quilts? A lot of people. Early on in our business, I connected with somebody on TikTok that I had not met in person, and she had a sewing business. And I see her hold up this tattered pattern when she's working on TikTok Live. She holds up this piece of paper that is like falling apart. And I'm like, I bet I can make that out of acrylic. So that kind of went down. I went down a whole new path. And I know it's clear, so it's hard to see. I should have done it out of a color. But this is a bowl koozie pattern. So this is a product that we launched with her. I cut them, engraved her logo on them, and then that almost removed me from the sales equation. She did all the sales. All I did was make them and send her wholesale these acrylic blanks. You can do the math on some stuff like this, and there's high profit margins, and then you're also not having to sell it. So if you don't know what that is, this is a bowl koozie. It goes in your microwave so you don't burn your fingers off. Very simple, but you should see the patterns that people use for stuff like this. They're unbelievable. And that whole sewing market, it's unbelievable. There's a lot of business potential there. People are doing quilts. They're constantly cutting 4-inch squares, 5-inch squares, and you can get those into a store and sell the products like that, and you're not having to actually sell them except for getting into the stores and things like that. So that's just one product that I like to talk about, because who would have thought you could make sewing patterns out of acrylic? So let's get into... All right, so another idea is leatherette clothing tags. So this is one I really like to utilize at craft shows. If you're at a craft show, it's a little slow. I'm never one to complain about how busy it is at a craft show, because I'm going to be out there talking to the other vendors, figuring out who can be a new customer for myself. So if you see all these people who are making mittens or hats, those nice knitted products, they don't have any branding on their products. They sell that, and it's got nothing on it. So these clothing tags are another high profit margin item that you can make a sheet of leatherette, $12, $14. You can cut 300 of these tags out of there. And then you sell these wholesale, these tiny little clothing tags, and then they get that branding on their clothing. These are just some of the things that I learned along the way, and my brain starts running, and I'm like, man, you could probably build a whole business off just making clothing tags or things like that. So let's move into a completely different direction. My day job is in manufacturing. So I have a lot of different connections in manufacturing, and that's, I don't know, it's a completely different industry. You would think that, what can I do with my laser for manufacturing? But there are some very, very good options. So this is what I like when I'm talking through with people, where I'm just asking them questions. Where do you work? How do you have kids? Are your kids in sports? Are you in business? Are you going to BNI and things like that, where maybe this just helps us pick the industry? I know that picture is a little bit small, but if you look, that platen, if you see that round thing on the right, I cut that out of acrylic, and that fits right on the machine, and that camera system is measuring parts. They pay almost $1,000 for these normally out of glass, but they break, they scratch. I sell these for $400, and sometimes I'm doing prototypes, and it's a lot easier for me to make a prototype for them than it is to, they have something made out of glass. And this is consumable, so you're making these regularly. Here's another part. I think this is a video. Pause that for a second. Let's see. So this is a part. It takes, depending on the part, it's about 30 to 40 seconds to mark this part. I charge $25 per part marked. I'm typically putting a part number, sometimes more detailed information about the part so they can reorder it. $25. If I have to put it on the rotary and mark the outer edge, I charge $35 for these. And the time depends on the metal, because different metals take different amount of time depending on what it's made of. Cobalt specifically takes a little longer. But if you do the math on something like this, I could do 240 parts in an hour, and I'm making $25 per part, or charging $25 per part. That's $6,000 per hour. This is how long it takes on a fiber. And I just want, I want to play. I know but it just gives you that. You can see how quickly we're making $25 here, just off this one part. That's it. So it's just, something different. Would you ever think that you could do things for manufacturing with your little old laser? You can. You could do that with an X tool. You could do it with a fiber. You can do it with a variety of different things. I just want, you guys to think outside the box with some of these different ideas. Last Christmas, we had somebody reach out to us, ask us about stencils. And of course, I always say yes. I know that can be a strength and a weakness, but I always say yes. I'll say yes and then figure out how I'm gonna make that happen. So you see here, this is a stencil that we made for Cannonsburg, not too far from here. A whole sheet of the material to make that is only about $38 or $48, depending on the thickness. Cutting this out, we were not sure how much to charge for something like this. We did some research. I put a quote together for the owner. I went to go drop this stuff off, and then they wanted to trade. I'm like, okay, what did you have in mind? He said, what about season passes? Okay, I've got a family of 6. And so I ended up trading, so for this order of stencils, season passes for Cannonsburg for our whole family, which is crazy, thousands of dollars. But then my brain just starts running. I could build a whole business around just making stencils. So I'm like, oh, stencils.com, or, so my brain just starts going, but there's just endless possibilities out there, guys. And that's really the moral of the story. I just want you guys to keep your mind open and think about what your natural sales market is. Let's see. How am I doing on time, guys? Okay, just checking. Just checking. I don't want to run too long. So I just want to go through one more, because there's so many things out there. And I want to genuinely help you guys talk through finding your natural sales market. I had a guy on Facebook. He said, hey, I want to order a Pyber and rotary. I'm like, okay, cool, let's talk. I'm happy to help you figure out. I never want to sell, push somebody just in one direction. I like to figure out what is really best for them. So we start talking, and he said, well, before I spend, almost $1,000 on this rotary, I'm not making any money in my business. And I'm like, well, let's pause. I don't want you to spend $1,000 on a piece of equipment when you don't even have a profitable business. You don't even have the $1,000 to invest in that rotary. It's just kind of throwing something out there and hoping it works out. I don't want you guys to do that. So we started talking through. I'm asking him about his hobbies. Does he have kids? What's his day job? And he starts telling me he's a pastor. He's involved with youth groups, not just at his church, but a little bit broader even. So I'm like, okay. So I start throwing out some ideas. And I said, have you ever heard of NFC tags? And he's like, no, what's that? I said, well, they do a lot of different things. You tap them on a phone. It can go to a website. It can give your contact information. So we ended up coming up with a product line for him using NFC silicone bracelets that he is doing like a devotional to. So people can buy the bracelet from him. It goes to a website that he runs, and it has a daily devotional. So it's just really cool to talk through that process, to go from him about to spend $1,000 hoping to make some money to having a new product, something that he can sell where he already is at. He's not making tumblers and like, where am I going to sell tumblers? Or the countless other things that we can do. So that's the whole purpose of these exercises. I just want you to think, what is your natural sales market? So the essence of a good blueprint is finding a need in the market you already understand and then building an entire business around that solution. In our small, intimate breakouts, you're going to have a chance to get hands-on with a hat press. You're going to have a chance to get hands-on with a fiber laser. Do you need a fiber laser? Do you need a CO2 laser? You're going to be able to help figure some of those things out while you're over there. Do you need a 3D printer? Yes, you definitely need a 3D printer. It's something that I didn't think that we needed in our business, but it's fun. So you might be too embarrassed to ask in a big crowd. Raise your hand, and ask that embarrassing question. I've never used my hat press. I've never used my rotary. You're going to be in some very small, intimate classrooms, and I want you guys to ask those questions that are hard to ask. You are going to be right there in a small classroom with 10, 12 people learning, getting hands-on. So please take advantage of that time so that you can learn those things and have the confidence to go back and get on that equipment that you have sitting there, because I've been there. So my goal is for you to leave here feeling empowered. I want you to go home with a new piece of your foundation, whether it's a skill you learned, a lesson you were taught, or a problem you found a solution for. Most importantly, I want you to leave here with your people. We all need someone that we can rely on. Does anybody know who I rely on? More than Molly. I want you to find your David, okay? David is somebody I talk to nonstop. Yesterday, I'm running around trying to work, and he keeps calling me. I'm like, what's up? How's it going? But you've got to have that person that you can call and bounce ideas off. David and I just drove back from Texas. We were in the car together for 16 and probably 17 hours. It seemed like 5 minutes. We had so much energy coming out of the Next Level Laser Conference that we're bouncing ideas off, product ideas, business ideas. You need to have that person, and I hope today that you can find somebody like that. I want you guys to connect here. I want you guys to connect on Facebook. The group is going to be for making connections so that you guys can rely on each other and we can all grow together in business. Let's see. I had another joke about David, but I'll leave that out. So the power of this community, it's going to challenge you, but by having these connections and this foundation, you're going to get to that resolution much faster when you can make that phone call, send that text. I answer messages. I don't know if you guys have ever sent me a message, but I am always responsive. I try to be there for you guys because I genuinely, my success is only your success. I want you guys to be successful in what you do. So just really think about this. Design your blueprint, build a foundation, find your people. That's really the focus for today. So the idea of lifting each other up is a core of the next session. With that, I would like to introduce Mark and Will. You're going to...
Thank you, sir. Yeah, appreciate it, man. As I say, don't leave your crap up here. Get it out of the way. Yeah. And good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. This is something that Will and I are really excited about. We love doing this together. We love seeing the community get together. So this is going to be really great to spend some time with you. Before we get started real quick, I just wanted to mention, for those of you guys who don't know us, my name is Mark, and I'm primarily a graphic designer. I design mostly for people who have lasers. I also do a lot of teaching and other things as well. And Will and I, we started in lasers about the same time,
Yeah.
about
maybe a couple-
2017, maybe.
Yeah, so about 8 years ago.
About 8 years ago, and we do a little bit of different things. Go ahead, tell them what you do real quick.
Yeah, so I pretty much sell laser ready blanks for other makers. So very similar to what Blake does in a way where we source products, we test products for consumers to purchase smaller quantities. So you're not having to order thousands of them. I have a 7,000 square foot warehouse that I stock all my products at, and then I just ship to our community here in Facebook, pretty much.
Nice, yeah. So we both do a little bit of different things, but we started around the same time, and we've seen the industry change, but we've also seen the world change. I mean, you know, how many of you guys have started a business in the last 5 years? A lot of people, right? In the last 3 years, who's newer than that? How about the last year? It's a crazy time to be a business person, isn't it? I mean, I don't know, something around 2020, something felt weird and different. I don't really know what it was. It just was kind of strange. But the world got really different, right? And the things that used to work sometimes are just different than they used to be. And it's just gotten really strange. And no matter where you are in your journey for your business, sales are always going to be near the top of your concerns, right? Regardless, there's going to be lots of things you'll be concerned about, but sales continue to always be at the top of our concern list. And it's not a one and done task. You know this, that if you start working on your sales, you don't just check that off and move to something else and never come back. You've got to always talk about how to build your sales, how to keep them going. It just never ends. The job is never done. And so I want to ask you just a real quick couple of questions here. When you're thinking about your sales and the money that's coming in from your customers, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand if this is you in just a second. If you would say overall that everything, even though everything's not perfect, you would say sales are doing well and I'm really happy with where I'm at. Where are we at? Okay. Wow, that's nobody. Fantastic. That's okay. That's actually what I expected, because the next two I'm going to ask, we fall in this category. For the second one is, how many of you would say that things are okay, but they really need to get better? Okay, that's what it, and then the rest of you either don't raise your hands at all for any reason, or how many of you, when I wrote this, I was laughing at myself because, you know, I'm a dad, so I laugh at my own stupid jokes. But when I thought, or the third option is, I would say that sales are like a chocolate ice cream emoji, a poop emoji. The sales are horrible, and I'm not a fan of chocolate ice cream. Who would say that that's where your sales are at? Okay, right. See, that's right. And so I think that Will and I would probably say that in the last year or two, that we have hovered around those last two, where either things are okay, but they need to be better, or that things are really chocolate ice cream emoji, for sure. And when we talk, we're kind of like, by the way, this is my David. I'm just calling him Will. But we talk almost every day, and we run the gamut of conversations, most of which will never see the light of day. No one will ever hear them, which is really good. Every now and again, we have good conversations, but we tend to get around to talking about business quite often. And we talk about, hey, how's your business doing? What things do we need to do different? And when we talk about our challenges, they always come back to the same things. We say, how is sales going? What do we need to do? And even though we tend to come up with new solutions for problems, we realize over and over again that there's always basics that we're not taking care of. Because I'm always looking for a new answer instead of just doing the things I already know. And if anybody's a parent in here, you teach your kids that, but somehow we don't always learn that ourselves. And so when I'm struggling with sales, I need to remind myself, hey, there's a bunch of basics that I need to take care of before I'm looking for a new idea. Another way that I say it a lot of times is, if I do what I know, I'll know more what to do, but I got to start with what I already know. And so today, we just want to spend some time talking about some basics. And I think that this morning, we're going to say a lot of things where most of you might say, yeah, I already know that. But my question is, are you doing that? Because I think that's my challenge. Because again, I look for new answers instead of, because if you got a good friend like this, he's subtle, but not quite subtle enough, because I understand what he's saying. So he'll say, yeah, but how's your, are you marketing enough? No, but I'm looking for another answer. And he's always reminding me.
Yeah, and what's funny is I can give him all the great advice, and I won't be doing it myself. Like
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
great at telling everyone else how to run their business.
It's the whole do as I say,
Do
not
as I
as
say, not as I
not
do.
as I do. Yeah. I can improve his business really easily. It's really obvious how to fix his, but mine not so much. So what we're going to do is we made a list of several things that we think are basic that we notice that a lot of people are not doing. And we're going to list those and we're going to give you some solutions on how to solve those. And they're going to be really simple, but we're going to go through those together. And I think, Chris, I think I've got my slides out of order. So we're going to find out here in just a second. If I do, I'll just roll with it like it's what I planned. It's going to be great. He's going to check that for me for just a second. And I made a QR code that if it doesn't come up here on the screen, I'll get it to you afterwards, that has all of our notes. So you don't have to write things down if you don't want to. If you can, if you want to, you can. But we're going to provide that for you so you can look at it later. So what we're going to do is we're going to list, we'll just start there. We're going to list several things that we think you are not doing or doing that is keeping your sales stuck. All right, so we're going to walk through those real quick, and then we'll give you some solutions to them. So the first one that we think that people tend to do is that what you're offering is too general or too broad to make an impact. Can you kind of tell us more what we mean by that?
Yeah, I think a lot of us, we are in those Facebook groups. We see all the amazing things that people are making, and we tend to make that mistake of we want to make everything, right? We think we need to have everything so everyone can be our customer, and we get so wide, we get stretched too thin. We have tons of materials, 75 acrylics, 40 woods, thousands of blanks, and then you realize I'm just too thin. I don't know how to reach all of those people. So being too broad can definitely be a big problem for all of us. I experienced that when I first got my laser because of the excitement of it. Like I could make everything with this. Yeah. And I realized that that's really not the way to go for me, at least.
And sometimes that can cause your sales to be low because you're just too broad and you don't make an impact anywhere. An inch deep and a mile wide, you're a jack of all trades, master of none, that kind of thing. So that can really hurt your sales. The second thing that we want to say, I had fun writing this, is your stars are hidden in a crowd of, what do we mean by that?
Just like with being too broad, if you are focused on trying to sell to business and they go to your page and they see nursery signs before they can sort what they're looking for, they're probably going to look elsewhere. So again, it kind of tied together with the first one, you're just too broad. So that's another thing that we've seen happen quite a bit is you have great sellers, but people can't find them.
Yeah, that's, I think, the big one is you might have a couple things that sell really, really well, but then you have 20 other things that don't really sell very well, and you're hiding your star in the middle of things that don't really sell that well. So that's another thing that people tend to do. This is one that's interesting. We'll have to talk about this for a minute, but what you're making doesn't clearly connect with your buyers. And Will's going to explain this because I think this one's important, but it may take an explanation.
Yeah, so we talk about, people not connecting with what you're making. They like it, but they don't know what to do with it. It doesn't meet a need. It doesn't move them. Yeah. A lot of the products we want to carry, create an emotion for them. You can look at something and say, that's great. It looks great, but what do I need that for? Or what purpose is that for? And with that, then you just turn yourself off to it. So that can affect your sales as well.
Yeah, I do that all the time. I'll look at something in a store or in someone's website and I'll say, that's really cool. I don't know what to do with that. And so I move on. And so that's one of the things that can affect your sales is people just really don't understand. They don't connect with what you're selling. And then another one is you're selling in the wrong places.
Yeah, I did a craft show recently, and there was a gentleman selling high-end charcuterie boards, super high-end. And they were like the most beautiful boards I've seen, but they were $250, $300 a board. And if you look at who we were selling to at this show, they were not looking for $250, $300 boards. But if you went to an art and wine show, they might be looking for that. So that's a big thing, is knowing where you're selling your products and who your customer is.
Right, selling in the wrong places. This is another one, very similar, but wrong price for the audience.
Yeah, we all struggle with pricing. I know a lot of us struggle with pricing, but also, pricing for your customers, right? Yeah. Knowing where your pricing is based on who your market is and if it fits them, because we're going to go into detail about how to fix some of these things, but knowing that your prices reflect who your customer is and pricing accordingly to those customers.
Absolutely. Another one is your quality. This one hurts my feelings. Your quality isn't consistently high enough. This is a tough one.
We've all seen it, right? The unsanded, charred ornament, the edges don't line up.
The text isn't welded.
Text isn't welded on
This
a
is a very
file that I bought
This is a very personal joke. Go ahead.
7 years ago, 8
He
years
bought
ago.
a-
I
he
bought
bought
a
a
file
bookmark.
and I made a bookmark and I didn't sand it. It looked horrible and I was sharing it on Facebook saying, oh, look, my product used to look horrible. The text wasn't welded. And then Mark comments and said, that was his file. So it is his fault that my text wasn't
That was
welded.
one of my really early ones. It's not in my store. You will not find it. And if you did, I would have fixed it by now. But he posted it having no idea it was me. And I thought, dude, you were outing me in front of everybody. And he didn't realize it was me. So I messaged him. He says, I'm so sorry. Look at it.
Delete.
Yeah, delete. But your quality isn't high enough consistently, and that can really hurt your sales. This is another one. Photography and presentation are distracting. What do we mean by distracting?
How many of you struggle with photography? Getting good product. You know, they say you're going, a buyer in the first 2 to 3 seconds when they see something will make a decision on if they're going to continue to look at that product. We're a culture of scrolling.
Oh, man.
And if we have 70 scrolls and we're looking through, if your picture looks bad, they're not stopping.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. In fact, presentation, somebody's going to be teaching us about that and packaging. And yeah, absolutely. It's going to be great. Here's one. We got 2 more. These things are going to hurt your sales. This is why you might be struggling. Your marketing is too broad, generic, or inconsistent.
Yeah, that's, you know, consistency is a big one, right? Posting more often, getting in front of people. We're going to talk about that. But also your marketing falls in place with if your items are too broad, you're trying to market to everyone. You don't know what people are actually looking for. You're not making posts or ads that create an emotion that create people wanting to commit and buy.
Yeah. And then the last one is not enough people are seeing what you're doing, regardless of how you get there.
Yeah, that's one that I struggle, we all struggle with is the volume. Volume is the key, right? The more people you get in front of, the more sales you're going to get. It's just the nature of the business. You know, if Mark creates an amazing product and I create a product that's a little lower, but he talks to 100 people and I talk to 1,000, I'm probably going to get more sales.
Yeah.
It's just, it's percentages. So we're going to talk more about how to get in front of more people as well.
I'm going to jump ahead of myself, but I don't care because I'm ADD and I'm going to chase the shiny thing that's right in front of me. When I think about this, how many of you guys run a Facebook group? Anybody? A few of you? You know how you can see statistics that tell you how many people saw your post? Is that just soul crushing? I mean, I just want to quit. You know, I mean, his group is way bigger than mine. I'm almost up to 17,000 members. You're at 44,000. And when you post something, when I post something and it is crazy viral in my group if 200 people see it out of 17,000. And here's where I'm stupid, actually, because I worry that I post too much, but only 200 out of 17,000 are even seeing it. So nobody's offended at all because they didn't even see it, right? So that's just dumb. But I go, oh, don't post about things too often. Literally no one knows I posted.
We hear that all the time. Like, I don't want to post too much on my business page or my personal page. Yeah. I don't want it to feel spammy. I posted about that post.
Yeah.
You want to get exposure, you have to post.
And I'll also add, if somebody's bothered by how many times you post, they're not your customer anyway.
That's one that I said is, you know, we see the same ads for Coca-Cola, every commercial, and we never say, well, I'm not going to buy that because I saw the ad too much.
No.
You know, if the person who saw your ad the 9th time says, I'm not buying, they weren't going to buy anyway.
No, they weren't.
But the person who saw the ad for the first time on your 9th post, who then bought, you wouldn't have gotten until you got to that 9th post.
I'll use one more analogy because I've grown up working in churches a lot. And even if you're not a church person, you will recognize this. So when you work at a church, you're at every single service that happens, right? You forget that everyone else in the room is not at every service. So when you are singing this song for the 3rd, 4th week in a row, and by the way, you went through all the rehearsals, you went through all the services, you're saying the song like 18 times. The average person's hearing it for the first time. And so I tend to want to give up on that. I mean, I don't sing that song again. They've only heard it one time, and then they go, why do you keep changing songs? Because they didn't hear it. Same thing with your posts. You see it a million times. They don't. They're not tired of it. And besides, if they're tired of the song, maybe this isn't a church for them. That's fine. So let's start talking about solutions to these, okay? But before we do that, I got 3 little quick points that I want to make about these things that you must have if you're going to keep yourself from getting stuck. So 3 little things of how to get unstuck and start moving. The number one thing is you got to have self-awareness. This may seem obvious, but you know how you can see other people that are not self-aware, you just can't see yourself? Like I can tell this isn't true about you, but
Maybe.
But I can say, "Ooh, he's not aware that he says move the needle constantly." He doesn't. This is a little thing we pick on each other for. But when somebody is not aware of what they're doing, they can't fix it. So the only way that you can fix these things is to be self-aware. So just always be working on self-awareness. Now, if you are a fairly self-aware person, you know that being self-aware is kind of painful, because once you start realizing the things you're doing are not doing well, and then you sit there and don't do anything about it, that is really frustrating. I think about the ignorance is bliss, and then I realize, do I really want to be ignorant? Well, sometimes. Yeah, sometimes I do. The next thing is you need to get an educated outside perspective, because if you're going to get unstuck and you're going to be self-aware, the next thing is you need to talk to somebody that knows what it's supposed to look like. And the comment that I made here in our notes is, it can't be your mom. Okay, and I say that because my mom thinks that everything I do is incredible. And that is the best thing about my mom, but she's not right. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, and if you ask mom, what do I need to do different? She's saying, nothing, baby, you are perfect. And we actually need to keep her saying that. She needs to keep saying it. But you also know that she doesn't have perspective, right? Like when I ask my wife, how, am I doing a good job? Oh, you're amazing. And she's right. I am.
Yeah, she's right.
Yeah. So you need to get an educated outside perspective. And then the last thing I want to say before we get into these is you need to pick a standard for excellence. And what I mean is you need to pick someone that you can use as a standard to say, that's what I'm looking for. That's what it looks like. So for example, who are some people that we could think of that we could use?
If I look at product photography, I would look at Misa.
Absolutely.
If I look at packaging, I would look at Catherine.
Absolutely.
Right? If I look at teamwork, I would look at Blake and David. So those are sort of kind of. It's because it's your event. I have to be nice.
If I looked at graphic design for file design, I look right in the camera. I would not think of Daryl Aspen.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. I hope he's watching. That's why I'm just messing with him. No one laughed at all. Wow, that was really awkward. Okay,
Daryl, that
I'm
guy.
kidding.
I know him.
Yeah. But you need to have a standard that you can look at to say, I know what this looks like. And so you're working on your own stuff and you're saying, this is the standard. Because if you're looking at yourself as the standard, that'll be trouble.
And I think one, too, quickly about the educated outside perspective is I think that's what these type of events are for, right? You get to meet people in different stages of the laser journey who have been there, who have taken the scars for some of us. When I first started, there were people who are further along in the laser business than I was. And I picked their brains, right? I developed relationships with them. They made mistakes ahead of me so that I didn't have to, which saved me a lot of time. And I think these events, talking to mentors, talking to people who have been there, get you from A to B quicker without having to go through the ups and downs. And that's what we all want to do. And a lot of people in this community, like Blake, want to see you get to that point quicker. A lot of other industries are very cutthroat and it's competition over community, but I think this community has proven that we care about each other and we want to see people get there. So utilize the resources that are in front of you.
Absolutely. So let's jump into the first thing that we noticed that keeps people stuck. The first thing we mentioned earlier is if what you offer is too general or too broad to make an impact, that can hold you back. Talk about that. Why does that happen?
A lot of times we talk, like I said earlier, we think that we need to sell everything to everyone. And it shows that you're never going to be able to capture one thing. You'll never be seen as an expert in one thing. When I started, it was sold everything. And then I thought, well, I'm going to narrow down. But my biggest fear when I narrowed down was, well, there's not enough customers. I'm going to lose out this person who wants a nursery sign. They're going to go to someone else, but I'm only selling this. And I realized as I narrowed down even more and more narrow to sell engraved cutting boards to realtors as closing gifts, and that's the only thing I sold to people, business grew crazy. There's enough customers in any niche market to keep us more busy than you could ever think.
Yeah. So for example, this is the answer, is narrow your focus, right?
Yep.
So talk about that. So we have to tell ourselves that it's okay to not be for everyone, because I've heard, when I started, I said the same thing, but now when I hear some beginners say this, I realize, ooh, that's a mistake. I say, well, who are you focused on? Who is your target customer? And they say,
Everyone with money.
yeah, right. And that sounds great, but it doesn't actually work very well. Because when you look at established companies around the world, most of them aren't doing that. They actually have their focus of who they're trying to reach.
Yeah, and they do it really well, right?
Yeah.
A couple examples that just jump out. Chick-fil-A.
Oh, yeah.
They do chicken well. In-N-Out, where I'm at on the West Coast, is you walk in, there's 3 items. There's a burger, there's fries, and there's a drink. And that's it. And yet every single time I walk up to any In-N-Out anywhere, there's a line wrapped around the building.
Yeah.
Right? They know who their customer is. They do it really well. They've become an expert in that. And now people, when they come, they say, hey, you have to try this, or this person makes the most amazing dog-themed gifts. This is your go-to person.
So we have a little, I don't have a slide for it, but we have a little kind of formula. Do you want to tell them what this formula is? And you might want to write this down. It may be just self-evident, but you can write it down if you want to.
Yeah, the focus formula is audience plus occasion or purpose plus style,
So
is what you're looking. So an
audience,
example of,
yep, audience, occasional purpose, and style.
yeah, so, dog breed Christmas ornaments for doodle owners.
Yeah.
So you have your audience, your purpose, and the style will help you narrow down what you're offering to people.
Yeah.
One for your wife, who's a
my
Spanish teacher.
Spanish teacher wife. Yeah. If you're selling Spanish teacher classroom decor with positive sayings, okay, that's really narrow. You know who your people are. And we're not saying this is the only thing you sell. We're not saying that, but we are saying narrow your focus so that people who are looking for something can find you. Because one of the things that happens when you focus is that it makes your marketing a whole lot easier. Because if you're trying to market 25 completely different things, it's really difficult, because you're trying to market, first of all, to that Spanish teacher, and the very next product you have is completely and totally different. So you got to market different for that one. When you focus a little more, it makes the marketing a lot easier, because you know who you're marketing to, what appeals to them, what can make them take action, right?
Yeah, and you know where they shop, what they're looking for, and you can get your message in front of them. Because I can post in a group of 44,000 on this item, but if only 100 people are interested in that, yeah, I've lost the opportunity to reach those. So now if I post one post and it's only 300 people, but it's 300 people who are looking for that item,
yes,
my results are going to be higher. And it's a lot less work on my end to get in front of the right people.
And we mentioned this earlier, but I think it's important to say again, is the more that you narrow your focus, when you now know who you're trying to sell to, when they are looking for the product that they want and they're coming to your website or your Facebook page or your Instagram or wherever, they don't have to sift through a bunch of things to find the thing they want, because you're more focused. Because if they have to dig through, and by the way, I am completely failing at this point myself, completely and totally. I'm realizing that I've got way too many things on my website, and I'm jumping ahead. I'll try not to do that. But the hero products that I know that people want, they can't find them because they're buried in things that are just all over the place. So I'm going to be working on narrowing my focus for the same reason, so that people who like things that I do, they can find the ones they want instead of losing it in a crowd. Which, by the way, I just jumped to the next one.
That's perfect.
So this one here is the second one is, if your stars are hidden in a crowd of what do we do about that? So this kind of overlaps a little bit, but if you're too broad in what you offer, then we need to narrow it down a little bit so that people can find them. So basically, those items that are unremarkable steal the spotlight from the items that are remarkable. And so we need to figure out how to make that better. So what's the solution? This is very similar to the last one, but we need to focus our menu. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so a good task that you can do is run reports for the last 6 months and look at what items are moving, which items aren't moving, which items you just need to eliminate that you say, hey, I'm not making any money on these as well, or these just don't sell and they're just taking up space on my site. It's taking up resources that I could use toward marketing the items that are selling. So make a list, see what sells, learn to be able to say, I don't need to make that anymore. That's a hard thing, because we're like, well, that one person might want it.
Yeah.
And you hold on to that one specific glitter acrylic for 3 years and you sell a dog tag out of it. So those are all things there. They say there's three things that you want to have on your menu is right. The hero, something, there might be things that are trendy at the time that might bring people to your site. You want to have the workhorse that just consistently sells over and over and over, and then have add-ons, right, that complement your workhorses so that people are like, oh, I didn't know you had this, and this item coincides with that, or it works with it, and I didn't know you have that. So you can see those things. I know one of the biggest things too on websites, if you're doing your sites, is when they put something in their cart and they're ready to check out, you might be also interested in this and those add-ons that tie to what they're already buying. Hey, you like that burger? What about fries? Yes, okay, fine, I'll get the fries and a drink. So understanding, focusing your menu to what your people are actually looking for. We talked about the congestion on your site. If I sell business to business and I'm putting myself out there as someone who can develop a brand for you and sell product merchandise for your brand, and they go there and they look at it and they're like, whoa, they sell all this other stuff that doesn't make sense. They're going to say, are they really focused on what they do well, right? If I go on to Nike site, they sell shoes. I just know that's what they do. If they sold all the other things, I'd be like, well, I don't know if that's a company that I'm going to work with. So if you can focus the menu, it also makes it clear. It makes it clear to the customer what you do and what you do well.
So I just want to highlight the three things, if anybody want to write this down. You said that we should focus on a hero, a workhorse, and an add-on. A hero, a workhorse, and an add-on. A hero item that is going to sell better than anything else you have. A workhorse that just consistently just keeps on selling. It's not maybe pretty, but it's the thing that sells. And then something that can add on. That'll really help you focus your menu. One thing that I put in my notes too that you said last night that I think is so good is we were kind of talking about how do you know when you've focused far enough? And what did you say to me?
If you haven't had to make a tough decision on if it's something you should carry or not carry, you haven't focused narrow enough. There's going to be decisions that you come across that you're like, I don't know if I really want to get rid of that one. I don't know if I want to be that specific on something. And when you get to that point where you're starting to make those tough decisions, you'll see, okay, I'm getting closer to where I need to be.
I felt like you and Johnny Cochran, because you said if it wasn't tough, it's not enough.
Yeah.
And I thought, nah, that's somehow, I don't know what, yeah,
It's
okay.
something
anyway.
like that.
Yeah, so here's the next one. If what you're doing, if what you're making doesn't clearly connect with buyers, if what you're making doesn't clearly connect, buyers don't know what to do with the thing or why they would want them, so they just pass. They just don't understand the application of it. So the solution for that is clarify your pitch. Talk to us about that.
I think we post, look what I made.
Yeah.
Right? Buy this. There's nothing there. Just like if we were to open up a YouTube video and they just said this, there's no hook. There's nothing that makes me want to stay. They're going to move on, right? So we have like 4 things that we think that we would use to help clarify the pitch.
Yeah.
Is a hook, right? Something that it's a problem, it's a desire, it's a moment, a story, why this exists, show a person, share something. If you look at the best commercials, they focus on people and what that product creates for them than they do just the product. Yep. What was the one that I used? The ED pills. They only show happy couples. They don't show anything about what the pill does.
Wow.
I wasn't going to use that one, but I thought, oh, why not?
I don't know if you know that was out loud. I'm not sure if you were. That was on the outside that you just said. Yeah.
Zero filter.
So focusing. So if you're trying to clarify, if you go with a hook, a story, an offer.
The offer, that's one thing where to get it, how to get it, when to order by, where to go. Those are things, because we'll just say this, and then you'll get messages, you'll get a text message, an email. But if you make it very clear on how to get the item, and then proof, right? Reviews, photos, behind the scene processes. Reviews are great for your pages, or when people see it, because if there's a crowded market these days, if there's one with 1,000 reviews and there's one with 1 review for the same product, which we all experience, we all sell similar products, the one with 1,000 reviews is probably getting the sale.
I'll do one quick example and then move on to the next one. I'll give you a real world example of what we just said. So let's say I'm going to start with the hook. We're going to do hook, story, offer, and proof. So let's say the hook is this. This is when you post about this. You'll post something like, do you need a gift that makes a dog mom cry happy tears? That's the hook. Because then dog moms go, wait a minute, that might be for me. And then the story is you can say, last year, Kayla missed her doodle when she left for college. We made her a tiny Lucy ornament, same coat, same goofy ears. And now every time she FaceTimes home, Lucy waves from the Christmas tree. It's not just decor, it's my dog is family. So that's kind of the story that you can tell. And then after you tell that story, you can say, hey, this is the offer. You can say, all you got to do is choose your breed, add a name, pick a ribbon, and order by November 30th, and it's going to show up before Christmas. So that's your offer. So you told the emotional story, you made an offer, and then you can have proof. You can say, hey, 5-star review. Kayla screamed when she saw Lucy's name, best $22 I've ever spent. So it's the hook, the story, the offer, and proof. And so that can help you clarify the pitch to people. We're going to move a little bit faster because I want to make sure you guys can get to your next things here. But our next one is if you're selling in the wrong places, this means your products are great, but they aren't selling. And the reason could be because your products are not a match for where you're selling. Like you said earlier, the charcuterie board, for example, or you've got beautiful high-end pieces of art, but you're selling at a farmer's market and maybe that's not who's trying to buy there. So you got the right things, but at the wrong place. Or when I wrote this, it made me laugh, is you're making incredible porch leaners that are very custom, maybe a custom look celebrated in the historic Rockford, Michigan area, but you're selling on Instagram. Most people on there don't live in Rockford. So even though these are really cool, you're marketing in the wrong place. You're selling in the wrong places. So what's the solution for this? The solution is,
yeah, fish in the right pond, right? Do some homework. Who are the people who want to buy the products you're selling and get in front of them? Where do they shop most?
Yeah.
So I think that's a key. You know, it seems very elementary. Know who's buying your product and be in front of them. But I think we all have made that mistake where we try to force what we want to make in front of the customers who don't necessarily want what we're selling.
And you know what can be distracting sometimes is, let's say you go to a craft show and you actually intentionally have something that's different. And occasionally that works, but sometimes your different actually doesn't work. You say, oh, I'm going to bring something high end here because nobody else has it. Well, sometimes there's a reason why nobody else has it. It's because that doesn't work there. It doesn't work with these people. It doesn't work in that place. The next one is if your price is wrong for your audience. This one's pretty straightforward, but if you're in the right place with the right product, with the right service, but it's just at the wrong price for them, we're not going to spend a ton of time on this, but the solution is, Will has kind of taught me a version of this for several years, that the audience determines the value. You don't get, you get to, I'm going to not jump. I'm not
That's all right. We set the price, right? But
yeah.
the customer ultimately sets the value, and they'll tell you the value by their spending dollar. At the end of the day, if it's not, it could be two ways, right? It could be you're priced way too high and no one buys anything, or the flip side where I've seen, and I've experienced this personally, is you're too low and then you sell a ton of them. And at the end of the month, you're like, I've been busy. I sold 1,000 of these things. My bank account is exactly where I left it at the beginning of the month. Usually it's because I bought a new laser, but sometimes it's because I'm priced wrong.
Pause. How many lasers do you have right now?
Double digits.
Double digits.
Double digits.
It's kind of upper double digits, isn't it?
Well, not 90.
Not 90.
16.
It's less than 90.
Yeah, 16. 16 lasers, a couple UV printers.
And apparently there's one showing up today.
Yeah, the UFI's coming today while I'm here.
The first thing you do is admit that you have a problem.
Nope.
I don't know if that's the first. Yeah,
No
okay.
problem.
Yeah, no problem whatsoever.
American way, debt. Wait.
The next problem that kind of holds you back is that if your quality isn't consistently high enough, we don't really need to describe this much. We all know what poor quality is, but go ahead and just give us a couple examples.
Like we said earlier,
not
finishing it properly,
yeah.
Proper packaging that goes out to the customer. I think also we tend to take shortcuts. We think that if we use a lower quality product that's cheaper, that we're going to somehow make it up by being able to charge less. Or if I use an expensive product, that it costs me too much and I have to raise my price too much. But you'll be surprised also if you're using a quality product. One, you'll get a better quality finished product, but a lot of times with the quality product, you save time. How many of you cut the cheapest wood from Home Depot and there's knots, it doesn't cut all the way through? You engraved, you cut, you spent 7 minutes on one little piece and then it doesn't finish and you have to start all over, versus getting quality product that will save you time as well, which will increase your profit line.
So the solution is to raise the bar. And one of the things that we talked about was we asked ourselves, if my quality is low, we have a couple different little short questions that we want to ask. What is the cause of that? For example, what is the cause of the quality not being high enough? Is it budget? Like, do I not have the money to have a higher quality item? Is that my issue? Or is it my skill set? Do I not know how to make a high quality item? Or this one actually is even harder. Is it your perception? Do you not know what a high quality item looks like? That one's a little more painful. Is, do I think that mine is great, but my customers don't? So we need to invest in raising the bar on this, and that's how to make things better and it be perceived higher by our customers. Here's the next one. If your photography and presentation are distracting, you did a good job explaining this earlier.
Yeah, I think it all boils down to your picture is going to sell it first.
Yeah.
And if your pictures don't look good, it will not sell. No matter if the product you make, you've determined is a 10, but your photography portrays it as a 5, the customer that's in front of that computer looking at it looks at it as a 5, and it doesn't matter how well your product is. So, and when we talk about presentation too, maybe it's not online, maybe it's at a craft show, right? It's in person. How you set up your booth, what your booth looks like, the perception you give your customer of the value is what they're going to see. Right. And that's going to change a lot on what people are willing to spend or buy with you.
So this solution, we said it this way on purpose, is shoot photography. Shoot like a brand, not like a yard sale. Or I was thinking not like Facebook Marketplace. How often do you see something on Marketplace that's a good photo? It's usually horrible, right? I don't know why my ADD brain just did this, but I'm thinking of photos. When FedEx or UPS drops off at my house now, they leave me a photo of where they dropped the item. And yesterday, FedEx, I'm not kidding, they posted a picture and it was like my mom took the picture. Over half of it was somebody's finger and then my front door. And I thought, and all of a sudden I judged all of FedEx by this one photo. And as unfair as that is what people do to us.
Yeah. Is
if they don't like your photography, they're not even going to consider your item.
Exactly. And there's a ton of resources out there to get better, right?
Yes.
There's replica surfaces if you're looking for backdrops, or you can create your own backdrops, create a consistent brand, create something when they look at a product, they can say, hey, I know whose that is. There's a photo room with AI. If you're looking at it, you can take a lot of great just white backdrop of your product and create landscapes in a sense for your product that help create an emotion with it, right? A cutting board on a flat board doesn't look as good as if it was displayed on a kitchen, but you can do that with photo room and not have to have all these expensive tools. And most of the people that I see make great photos and sell amazing art, they're doing it with their phones. They don't have an expensive camera. You can do it with the tools you have.
Okay. It's
just using them properly. And at the end of the day, taking classes on how to make better photos. Or if you want to find a local photographer and product photographer and barter some services, help build another small business as well. So whatever works for you and what saves you time and will get your product looking best, because that is the curtain for them to see first. And if it's bad, you're no matter what else you do. Doesn't matter how great your pricing is. It doesn't matter how great your marketing is. It doesn't matter if you're in front of all the people. If it looks bad, they will not buy it.
That's right. We got 2 more. If your marketing is too broad, generic, or inconsistent, that's a problem. I don't even know if we need to explain that. That's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, again, that one falls in line with knowing who your customers are. You'll be able to market exactly to what they want, what they need. I know we even talk about like what colors tend to appeal to them.
Yes.
All of those little things work when you know who you're marketing to. So once you narrow down, you'll know who you need to market to and how to market to them.
In fact, that's what we said, is create an avatar and speak to them. When I wrote that, he said, oh, a blue guy?
Yeah. That's what I think avatar.
Not the movie. No, we're not creating an avatar, but creating an avatar, a target customer, who the target customer is, who they are. Like if it's a lady, where do they tend to shop? What do they tend to like? What do they tend to spend? What appeals to them? But if you create an avatar and then talk to that person, that helps you narrow a lot of things. It helps you spend less money because now you know who you're trying to appeal to. You know where to post, you know where to send things. You only have to speak one language because you're not speaking to all different kinds of people, and you know where to find them. So that really helps. And the last one is, if not enough people are seeing what you're doing, the solution is to get in front of more people more often. That seems super obvious, but Will, you have some good thoughts here. So
yeah, so your volume of posts we talk about, start an email list. Make sure you have a way of getting those contacts that you can reach them, because we've all saw the scare of Facebook going down for like 3 hours last year. And if any of you run your business on Facebook, everyone was panicking. I don't know how to get a hold of my customers. I don't know how to sell. I don't know where to post. But you should be emailing more often. Definitely, you have sales coming up. And yeah, we get a ton of emails, but that one email that they might see that opens up might lead to sales. Choose better shows for your specific products that you've niched down to. So again, get in front of more people, but get in front of more of the right people. Yeah. It's one thing to be in front of everyone, but if you can get in front of the right people, you'll see that you'll know quickly that, okay, these are my people, and then you just drive deep into that.
That's right.
You're one that you put on here. Posting more won't fix poor products or poor presentation or messaging. So fix the other things and then post.
Yeah,
and share.
If everything else is bad, posting more is not going to help. Okay, so let's just real quick. These are the things we just went through. For sake of time, we'll make sure that we get you these this list. So here's the thing. In closing, hearing all these things is great, but I guarantee every one of you has got a couple things on this list that you really need to be working on. And our encouragement for you to be to not only identify what they are, but what are you going to do? Because here's your action plan. When you leave here today, because you're going to hear not just this stuff, you're going to hear a lot of things in these other classes, and you're going to hear things that you need to do to make a difference. And if you walk out of here with a bunch of notes and no action, that did not help at all. So what are you going to do? When are you going to do it? And who are you going to be accountable to about it? Because if you don't have a David, if you don't have a Will, if you don't have a Mark, absolutely, if you want to message me and you want to talk to me about it, I'd be happy to help you be accountable to whatever goal you set for yourself. I guess I'll say this one in closing, and we'll let you guys go. We'll let you give us a couple announcements. But just a funny story where I heard that this really struck home is that story I told you about the pastor, right? Is this pastor I followed for years. He used to do counseling. And he said, this was the description of my last counseling session before I stopped doing this. He had a lady come in, and she was sitting there talking about all the issues she was going through and talking. And finally he said, hey, can I interrupt you for a second? Do you have a calendar with you? And she said, yeah. He said, could you pull it out? And she said, sure. So she pulls out a calendar, and he goes, let's look on the calendar and pick a day that you're going to change, because clearly it's not today. And that went over like a turd in a punch bowl completely. And but his point was, what to me was like, ooh, first of all, not a good counseling technique. And second of all, good question. Because when you come to events like this, you hear and you learn all kinds of things. But the question is, what are you going to do with it? Because if you don't have an action plan, then you just spent the day taking in stuff that you didn't do anything with. So our encouragement for you for the rest of the day is, whether it's our presentation or somebody else's, it doesn't matter. Grab something, make an action plan, and be accountable to somebody and make it happen. So we hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Blake's got a couple announcements before the next session, and we will see you guys throughout the rest of today. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
I'm just trying to fill up your hands with stuff.
Thanks. Couple quick things, guys. Again, just thank you guys